Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the podcast that I, your host, David Woodruff, lovingly call the Woodruff Report. It's coming down to the final stretch of the sports calendar. NBA playoffs are here. Champions League final is on the doorstep. The semifinal matchups are set. Baseball season is in swing. The season has started. What a it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's exciting. Oh, I forgot to mention, NHL playoffs are in full swing. You know those will take 600 years because it seems just about everybody in the entire National Hockey League makes the playoffs, and 6 months later, the Stanley Cup comes, and then next season has begun, and you're like, whoa, what? Anywho, all this is to say it's a very exciting time of the year to be a sports fan. Almost any sport you choose, there is excitement, there is tension, there are big matchups between the best teams in the sport for you to feast your eyes upon, and that makes my job very easy, because no matter what I talk about, I could choose. I bet if I chose cricket, there'd be some incredible cricket matches going on right now. As your podcast host, I can pick any sport to talk about, and it's going to be exciting, and I'll have a lot to say. With that in mind, on this edition of the podcast, I am going to give you an NBA playoffs preview. Later today, we will see our first few Game 1s. Warriors play the Spurs in one that I'm going to be watching from beginning to end. I also want to recap and definitely the best Champions League round that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Who am I to say it's the best ever, but best Champions League round I have ever seen, the second leg of those quarterfinal matchups. I want to recap the excitement and the drama in those games, and boy, was there a lot of it. And I also want to check in on our San Francisco Giants, because their season has started. We've played 13 games. They are in the book. We're hovering around 500 right now. I'll talk about the problems. Hint, they're the same as usual. What's been good, what's been bad, what can be better. Let's do it. I do want to say that the NFL draft is also approaching, and per usual, I will have a podcast detailing who the 49ers should pick, what they should be looking for. So if you were looking forward to an NFL draft preview, fear not. That will also be coming up shortly on the wonderful, wonderful Woodruff Report. Let's get into it. Let's talk NBA. Let's talk Champions League. Let's talk MLB baseball. Starting in 3, 2, 1. There was only one place this podcast could start, and it's not on the Western Hemisphere. We have to start in Europe because the Champions League fixtures were unbelievable this week. Teams going for broke. 8 of the best teams in the world locking horns for the second round of their quarterfinal matchups, the second leg. And after the first leg, I believe I said it on this podcast myself. We had a pretty good idea of who we thought was going to progress. Boy, was that a statement that I should not have made. If I could go back in time, I would clamp my hand over old me's mouth before I uttered that blasphemous statement, because what we saw in the second leg was heroic, drama, incredible, unbelievable, and lucky for you, you will get to hear all about it coming up on the Woodruff Report. Let's do it, and there's only one place we could start, and that is in the Stadio Olimpico, the stadium that both Roma and Lazio share. Lazio would have to wait their turn because their Europa League matchup was on Thursday. First, Roma hosted Barcelona, one of the best teams in the world. Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, all those boys coming to town, and after the first leg, this tie looked all but over. Barcelona had mopped the floor with Roma at Camp Nou 4-1. Edin Dzeko had briefly restored a little bit of hope for Roma fans when he made the tie 3-1, but all hope seemed to be canceled out when Luis Suarez put in a fourth goal. You know who did not believe any of the critics, and you know who did not believe any of the podcasters in San Francisco who said Roma couldn't do it? The Roma team itself and their fans, because this stadium was loud. The arena was rocking, the players believed, and what really helped this belief was an early goal. Early goals are so important. We would see this time in and time again in both the Champions League fixtures that I'm going to talk about and also in Thursday's Europa League fixtures. Early goals turn ties on their head, and that's what happened. Sort of a speculative ball from the Roma backline somehow splits Umtiti and PK to the big Bosnian Edin Dzeko, who's able to control and beat Ter Stegen. It's 1-0 Roma. Now the fans who were loud to begin with are even louder, decibel levels at about 1,000,005. Now the Roma players believe. The Barcelona players are what's going on here? A little bit on the back foot. Roma needed to press and take advantage of this, especially against a team with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, who need half a millimeter of space to get a shot away and put it upper 90. Roma had a bunch of chances going into halftime, but ultimately they could not put them away. But still, a good first half for the Italian side going in 1-0. They know that a 3-0 victory will take them through based on their away goal. How clutch could that prove to be? Dzeko's away goal scored at the Camp Nou in the first leg. That away goals rule is a game changer. Simply put, it's a game changer. It changes strategy. It changes everything. Barcelona did have the possession advantage of this game, 57% to 43%, but they couldn't do much with their possession. It was a lot of working the ball around the back, getting the ball in the midfield. When it would find one of those front three players, Messi was as ineffective as I've seen him this season. Suarez really relies on Messi to get him chances on goal. And when Messi's not on, this Barcelona team will struggle, and struggle they did. Roma had 17 shots in this game. 6 of them were on target. And so every attack, it seemed, was leading to a Roma shot. And eventually, when you shoot enough, at least some of them are going to go in. If you shoot 17 times and only a small percentage of them go in, that's still 2 to 3 goals, maybe even 4. That's a very good output. Roma was throwing everybody forward, and they would get a break when a penalty is called against the Catalan side. Now the longtime Roma captain Daniel De Rossi steps up with a chance to make it 2-0. You could hear a pin drop in the stadium. Boom! He takes it to the right. Ter Stegen guesses correctly but can't get to it. It is put into the side netting. 2-0 Roma. The stadium decibel levels are now at 2,000,005. And everyone believes. The Roma players are saying, let's hear it to the crowd. Barcelona is saying, I cannot hear my own thoughts. It's so loud in here. I just want to go back to Spain and have a tortilla. I don't know. And then the third goal would come shortly after for Roma. The incredible comeback would be complete. A corner kick is swung into the front post where Manolas gets the flick onto it. Barcelona and Ter Stegen are playing no men at the posts who are standing there to deflect shots exactly like this. He flicks it beautifully into the far corner. Nothing Ter Stegen can do. It's 3-0, and now a cathartic release of emotions for the Roma players. They're going crazy. They're sliding. They're yelling. Their hands are waving up and down. The Roma fans are jumping up and down. The stadium is shaking. The old stadium. Fun fact, it was actually built in before the 1920s. Fun fact about the Stadio Olimpico, I've got them. The stadium's rocking on its foundations, and now Barcelona need to change everything. They thought they could maybe sit back and soak up pressure for this match. Now they have to attack, and ultimately they would not really have any good chances. The final whistle blows. Everyone goes crazy. No one thought Roma could do it. Barcelona thought they had the easiest draw when they drew Roma, but a lot of critics, myself included, watch out for this Roma side, I said. And I guess Barcelona just didn't. I mean, they underestimated them, and they did not come into the second leg with enough intensity. 3-0 the final. Roma progresses on away goals, the final aggregate score being 4-4. Edin Dzeko's first leg goal proving to be the decisive one. Barcelona crash out of the Champions League in the quarter-final stage. This does not look good for Ernesto Valverde. For supporters that, two things here, not only want Barcelona to have success in the Champions League, but have seen their eternal rivals Real Madrid win 2 Champions Leagues very recently. So sort of a combination of annoyance there. Valverde must feel the heat. Luckily, he has a very big lead in La Liga that can hopefully quell the fans' desire for silverware that's never ending for the Catalan side. Roma progresses to the semifinal. The other fixture containing an Italian one was another thrilling tie. Juventus and Real Madrid, what looked to be the best matchup of the quarterfinal round, but in the first round, Real Madrid came into Juventus and absolutely disrespected them. Basically, the NBA equivalent of what Real Madrid did was Tracy McGrady dunking all over the life of Sean Bradley. Real Madrid absolutely disrespected Juventus in their own stadium in Turin in the first leg, headlined by Ronaldo's beautiful bicycle kick goal. They had won the first leg 3-0 with the tie with 3 away goals. So the tie now shifts to the Santiago Bernabeu in Spain. Real Madrid, they look to have this locked up. But hey, Barcelona had also thought they had this locked up. But Real Madrid have the added advantage of not having to play in the away team stadium. They are at home, comfortable, fans are behind them. Juventus had their work cut out for them. So the game begins, and guess what happens? I would like to return to my thesis statement. I could write a 5-paragraph essay citing these 2 games, the Barcelona and the Real Madrid games, as an example for my early goal hypothesis. Mario Mandzukic swings in at the back post and flicks the ball in. Nothing Keylor Navas can do. In only the second minute, Juventus have an early lead. I'm going to repeat myself again because it's true. The Juventus players believe the fans can ratchet up their decibel levels. And Juventus is suddenly, we can do this. Real Madrid can we do this? A little bit on the back foot. And Mandzukic, just 20 minutes later, would make it 2 on a very similar goal. Ball clipped in from the right side again. Mandzukic is bigger than Carvajal. His marker heads it down. Keylor Navas gets a hand on it, but cannot prevent the ball from going into the back of the net. 2-0 to Juventus. We haven't even played 40 minutes yet. And Real Madrid, just like Barcelona, had an immense possession advantage in this game, 62% to 38%. But they were not able to do much with it. They did outshoot Juventus, but Juventus was getting the ball in the back of the net, which is ultimately what matters in the game. You can shoot all you want, but if you don't hit the back of the net, you're wasting your time. So, Juventus go into halftime 2-0 up, believing in themselves. The supporters believe. Real Madrid is nervously watching, knowing that one more goal from Juventus would tie the fixture up 3-3 on aggregate, and both teams would have 3 away goals, so nothing would separate them. And Real Madrid know that this would sort of be an all-time blowing it moment, especially after watching what happened to Barcelona. So Immense pressure on Los Galacticos coming into the second half. Juventus, buoyed by those 2 first-half goals, are ready to roll. And 15 minutes into the half, the impossible happens. A complete error by Keylor Navas in the Real Madrid goal. He comes out to catch a cross that was not super dangerous, but drops it, and Blaise Matuidi, the longtime Paris Saint-Germain midfielder, is there to bundle home the rebound. A stunned silence, only broken by the jubilant yells of the old lady Juventus faithfuls going nuts in their small away corner, the few that traveled, the few that believed, pure ecstasy. And now Real Madrid have to go on the front foot. They can't soak up pressure anymore because now they don't want this tie to go to extra time and then possibly penalties, because we know how much of a crapshoot PKs are. Both teams going at each other. It's beautiful soccer to watch. Both teams trying to get that decisive 4th goal that can turn the tie on its head. Remember, if Juventus had scored, Real Madrid would have needed 2 based on that away goals rule, because now Juventus would have had 4 away goals to Real Madrid's 3. Then, in the last minute of extra time, the moment that we're never going to be able to forget from this match, Lucas Vazquez is bundled over in the Juventus box by the Juventus midfielder. Michael Oliver, the referee on hand, decides penalty in the 97th minute. Juventus goes absolutely loco. Buffon looks like he's about to murder Michael Oliver and Michael Oliver's family. They all huddle around the ref. They're pushing him. I mean, the Santiago Bernabeu is going nuts because now they know Senor Ronaldo will have a chance to win this game for Real Madrid. Once it all gets hushed down, Buffon, who may become the best goalkeeper of all time, has been sent off by Oliver for his protests. He would later say after the game that Michael Oliver, I love this quote, has a trash can for a heart. I mean, he was angry. When you say someone has a trash can for the heart, you really mean it. That's one of the worst insults I can think of. Lol. So Wojciech Szczesny, the backup goalkeeper for Juventus, now comes in with a chance to become basically immortalized if he can save Cristiano Ronaldo's penalty. Hint, he's not. Real Madrid's talisman steps up, takes a deep breath, calms his nerves, closes his eyes, pauses for dramatic effect, then comes up and rifles an absolute banger into the top right corner of the net. Nobody could have saved that. You could have had 8 Juventus players lined up single file on the goal line. It had too much elevation. They wouldn't have been able to get to it. Real Madrid go through based on that goal, winning the tie 4-3 on aggregate. Juventus, for all their hard work, they are doomed by a decision from the referee in the last minute of extra time. So, was it a foul? The answer is yes, and this would not be a question if it had not been in the 98th minute. Vazquez is right in front of the goal. The Juventus player is coming in from the back. Not only does he push Vazquez in the back, but he hooks him. He does get the ball, but that doesn't essentially make the challenge okay. For example, you could get the ball, but if you snap someone's leg in half, that doesn't make the challenge okay or legal. So he not only pushed Vazquez in the back, but hooked him with his left foot. It was certainly a PK, and honestly, it was a good move by the Juventus defender because Vazquez was about 2 feet away from the goal. If he'd been able to control it, there's no way the ball doesn't end up in the back of the net. So the Juventus defender actually made a wise business decision, at least making Juventus earn the goal. I mean, Real Madrid earn the goal instead of just sort of getting the shot from 2 feet away, which almost certainly would have gone in, barring an incredible miss. Juventus crash out of the Champions League, and Real Madrid have beaten PSG and Juventus in back-to-back rounds, so they are showing their mettle. They have not had an easy draw whatsoever, but they've been showing why they are the best team in the world when it comes to the Champions League. Real Madrid progress to the semifinals of the Champions League, winning 4-3 on aggregate. Next to England and Manchester City were looking to overturn a disastrous first leg defeat to Liverpool. And guess what happens? My 5-paragraph essay is complete. An early goal from Manchester City and Gabriel Jesus, they were probably calling him around the stadium after he scored that first goal. Gabriel Jesus scores early, putting the ball past the Karius in the Liverpool goal to make it 1-0 City. The Etihad Stadium's going nuts. The heads drop a little bit from the Liverpool point of view, and the Man City players are ready to do this. A little bit later, they would have a goal disallowed for a controversial decision. Leroy Sané, the ball is shot, and Sané is in an offside position, and he sort of shields the Liverpool defender from being able... He doesn't touch the ball himself, but he shields a Liverpool defender from kicking the ball out, saving it a goal line clearance, but he was in an offside position. So the goal is disallowed, and Liverpool are safe for the time being. At halftime, Pep Guardiola would get sent to the stands for arguing that particular decision, which really hurts because now you don't have your head coach on the sideline making adjustments, etc., etc. So Manchester City's assistant, Mikel Arteta, takes over touchline duties, but he's no Pep Guardiola. And Liverpool would dominate the second half, and the tie would be wrapped up when who else? Mohamed Salah picks up the ball off a Sané shot, deflected, saved by Ederson. He would get the ball. He only had to beat Otamendi because Ederson was out of his goal. Otamendi standing on the goal line trying to protect the goal but he can't use his hands, of course, because he's a field player. So Mohamed Salah does a beautiful little chip, putting it into the back of the net. It is now 1-1, and Liverpool have the away goal. Manchester City need to score 4 now, and that was never going to happen. Liverpool would actually end up winning the game. An Otamendi turnover turns into Firmino dashing in from the left side. He puts a beautifully curled finish off the post and in. Liverpool win 2-1. They do what they needed to do, and sort of a surprise, not many people expected Liverpool to make the semifinals of the Champions League. We knew their potential, but we didn't think they would come this far. 2-1, they win this tie 5-1 on aggregate. City crash out of the Champions League once more. And Pep Guardiola, he lost to Monaco last year, loses to Liverpool this year. The results have not been as nice as he would have hoped, especially with all the money that he spent on this squad. And I heard a very good piece of analysis, which was, when Pep Guardiola's teams lose, they often are dismantled or it's a disastrous showing. His teams are so good, but in that 5% chance where they get their tactics wrong or something, they are often killed by the other team. And that's what happened in the first leg, and it was ultimately an insurmountable obstacle for Man City to face. To the final game of the quarterfinals now, we travel to Munich as the Bavarian giants Bayern Munich take on Sevilla. They were holding on to a slender 2-1 lead, but Sevilla needed 2 goals based on that away goals rule to be ahead in this tie, and that's always a very difficult thing to do, especially in the Allianz Arena in Germany. That is a very intimidating place to play. And this game would see Sevilla have some very good chances. They hit the crossbar off a free kick on Angel Correa, I believe it was. Yes, it was, with a beautiful flicked header that would crash off the bar. Nothing the Bayern keeper could do. But Sevilla, they just didn't get that early goal, and then it didn't look like they really thought they were going to progress here. And the tie ended when Correa picked up a red card for a horrible challenge. It was his second yellow on Javi Martinez of Bayern Munich. A terrible late shin-shattering challenge, sent off. Now, Sevilla only have 10 men, and they were outclassed to begin with. The game would end 0-0, so a decent result for Sevilla to say that they went to Munich and didn't lose, but not enough. Bayern progress to the semifinals with a 0-0 draw, 2-1. They progress on aggregate. And the semifinals are set. Now we know Liverpool, Roma, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich progressed. The draw took place a couple days ago, and exciting. Real Madrid and Bayern Munich will meet in an absolutely titanic fixture, and the tough road for Real continues. If they make the final, they will have beaten PSG, Juventus, and Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have a lot to do to beat this very good Real Madrid side. And then Roma, Liverpool. This was the game that I think everybody wanted, myself included, because this is going to be two attacking teams going at it. Don't be surprised if one of these games ends 4-3, because both of these teams have rather weak defenses and potent offenses. This was the tie I want to see. And this means that one of either Liverpool or Roma will make the final, which two teams that no one thought would have made the final, sort of surprising outfits. It's going to be a giant Bayern or Real against sort of not a David, but a smaller team in either Liverpool or Roma. Exciting stuff. Champions League, what can you say? One of the most exciting groups of fixtures I have ever witnessed firsthand, maybe the best. Let's completely shift gears now, and I apologize. This is going to be a long podcast because there is so much to talk about. NBA playoff preview. The matchups are set. The games are starting. It's a magical time of the year on the basketball calendar. Let's talk some basketball, and let's start in the Eastern Conference. What a round of playoff basketball it is going to be in the East. Let's get right to it. The 1-seed Raptors host the 8-seed Wizards in what is going to be a terrific 1-8 matchup. The Raptors, led by Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, have put together the best record in the East. They have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense and the best bench in the NBA. But those playoff heebie-jeebies still exist. The Raptors, known for their first and second round exits, especially to LeBron James and company, and it seems like DeRozan and Lowry really shrink when it comes to the playoff. They will look to buck this trend against a very good Wizards team. This is one of the best 8 seeds I've ever seen. You've got John Wall, who's been injured but has just gotten back, and he's John Wall. He can do it all. He's speedy, he can get to the bucket, and he can kick it out to guys like Bradley Beal, who's been terrific this year for the Wizards in John Wall's absence, has emerged as not just a sidekick, but a genuine star in this league. You've got the 1-2 punch of Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan against the 1-2 punch of John Wall and Bradley Beal. This is going to be a terrific 1-8 matchup. Do not expect a sweep. This series might even go to 7. The Raptors do have home court advantage, which I see being very big in this series, as I do not see the away team winning very many games in this series. Ultimately, it's going to be the bench that's going to decide this, and the Raptors are going to move on in 6 games. They're going to win this series 4-2. That is my playoff prediction, but this is going to be an exciting round of basketball, and definitely not a matchup that when you're watching this, you're going to be like, wow, I cannot believe this is a first-round matchup. That's how exciting I predict it's going to be. I could be wrong. It could be the most boring basketball ever, but I think there's maybe a 15% chance of that happening. Moving on down the list, the Celtics, the 2 seed in the East, host the Bucks. Giannis and co. This is going to be another incredible matchup because the Celtics have been decimated by injuries. No Marcus Smart. Kyrie is out for the playoffs, and the Bucks are very good. They've got Giannis, they've got Middleton, all those boys, all that length on the floor. Length. I love saying that word. And I actually think the Bucks are going to win this series in 6 or 7 games because Boston is just been so decimated by injuries. I don't see them having enough firepower. Yes, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are good, but I think that it's going to be very difficult for them to match up against the Bucks and all that length, as I stated before, all those Bucks big men. Al Horford, they're going to need a big series from him. I ultimately see the 7-seed Bucks defeating the 2-seed Celtics in 6 games, moving on to the second round. Moving on down, another incredible matchup. I seemingly say this about every matchup there's been so far. As the 3-seed, the surprise outfit, Philadelphia 76ers, maybe the hottest team in the NBA going into the playoffs, probably the hottest team in the NBA going into playoffs, host the Miami Heat, Goran Dragic, James Johnson, those boys who've been very good this season. Another incredible coaching job by Spoelstra, and the Heat continue to be very good. Dwayne Wade came back after his brief, weird stint with Cleveland and is playing great basketball once again. The Sixers are playing incredible basketball right now. You've got Joel Embiid, who did suffer that facial fracture, but he is apparently going to be a full go for these playoffs, for this first round, so that figures to be a positive for Philadelphia. Ben Simmons is maybe the rookie of the year. Him or Donovan Mitchell seem to be the 2 finalists. We'll see who eventually wins it. He's been playing triple-double Russell Westbrook ball recently. He's been cranked up on high. He's been playing extremely well. Who will win this series, you may ask? It's going to be 76ers, and I think it'll only take 5. This Heat team is good, but I just don't see them being able to match up with this Sixers team, who may have a little bit of nerves because they're so young and they haven't been in the playoffs before, but I think they'll adjust quick, and they're the far superior team in this matchup. I think they'll show it. Sixers in 5, they will progress to the next round. The final matchup sees LeBron James and the Cavaliers, the 4-seed against the 5-seed Indiana Pacers, led by Victor Oladipo, who the Pacers have been a surprise outfit, projected by many to finish near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. They have been in the playoffs since the beginning of the season. Victor Oladipo has emerged as a true star in Indiana, but they are going against LeBron James, who just seems to be able to turn it on no matter who is around him when it comes playoff time, and he's got a pretty good supporting cast. Kevin Love, Rodney Hood, those boys, they can defend, they can shoot, and when you have LeBron, you don't need much. Cavs are going to sweep the Pacers in this round, and LeBron James is going to prove once again why he has been to so many finals in a row. So, East playoff picture, I've picked the Raptors, the Bucks, the Sixers, and the Cavs to move on, but watch these games. They are going to be extremely exciting. Let's move on to the West Coast, Best Coast, which the West has been the better conference again this year, although the East has caught up a little bit. It's not been the East of old, just sort of pathetic with 3 good teams and then everybody else is kind of average. The West is very competitive once again. We had that play-in game between the Nuggets and the T-Wolves. Whoever won was going to the playoffs. The T-Wolves ultimately won that game and will go to their first playoffs in 14 years. Finally, the longest streak in the NBA is over as the T-Wolves secure that 8 seed, and that brings us to our first matchup, James Harden, Chris Paul, and the Houston Rockets, owner of the NBA's best record, against those T-Wolves, Jimmy Butler and co., who just snuck in on the last day of the season. Jimmy Butler will play, which figures to make this series a little bit interesting, but the Rockets are they're just so good when Capella, Chris Paul, and James Harden all play. You've got Eric Gordon knocking down threes from everywhere. You've got Anderson. He can knock down threes. This is an incredible collection of talent in Houston, and they've played like it this season. The Rockets are going to win this series, but the T-Wolves will take one of the games. They will not be swept, but the Raptors will get through this series in 5. Exciting for the T-Wolves, too, to make the playoffs, give Karl Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, their first taste of the playoffs together. They figure to be better than an 8 seed in years to come. The 2 seed Warriors in our next matchup take on the Spurs. This seems like it would be a very good matchup, Warriors-Spurs, of course, but without Kawhi, the Spurs have not been the Spurs of old. This season, they've been led by LaMarcus Aldridge and sort of a band of rookies, somehow making the playoffs based on Greg Popovich's very good coaching. The Spurs will not have Kawhi for this series as his weird quad injury saga continues, but the Warriors don't have Steph Curry. So do they balance each other out? Yeah, they do. Maybe the best player on each team will be out. Of course, the Warriors still have Clay, Durant, and Draymond, but those three have not been especially prolific together. Steph is really what takes this team over the top, and this series looks to be an interesting one. I still see the Warriors winning this series in 5. The Spurs will take a game, but not one where you can just say, well, pencil the Warriors through. They will probably win, but it figures to have competitive, good basketball, especially the games in San Antonio. Now to the truly exciting games in the West, because seeds 3 through 8 were really not separated by a lot of games this whole year. They were constantly jockeying for position. The 3 seed Blazers take on the 6 seed Pelicans in what figures to be a terrific series. Since DeMarcus Cousins went down, Anthony Davis has been playing like a man on a mission, single-handedly securing 20 rebounds a game and scoring 40 points and putting the team on his back. He meets Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and this high-powered Blazers team who can score with anybody in the league. The Blazers have played incredible basketball this year and have overachieved. Damian Lillard is a sneaky MVP candidate. CJ McCollum has been doing his thing, of course, just like always. And this figures to be a very good series because it's Anthony Davis and that big post presence against the guards of Portland. Portland does not really have anybody who's going to be able to guard Anthony Davis. It might be Nurkic, but he's going to be overmatched with the athleticism of Anthony Davis, especially Davis playing playoff basketball now. You know he'll be fired up. And this is going to be a good series. Blazers in 6, but don't count out those Pelicans. They can do some damage, especially if Anthony Davis gets rolling. Now to our final matchup, the 4 seed Thunder and the 5 seed Jazz. This is going to be a very, 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 very exciting series. You've got Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, or George Paul, as Skip Bayless likes to call him. That trio, that triumvirate. And, of course, Steven Adams. People count him out, but he's a very good player on this team. They will take on this incredibly surprising Utah team led by my Rookie of the Year, Donovan Mitchell. And he's been their headline player, especially with Rudy Gobert missing some games down the stretch. But those are the two for Utah. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Those are going to be the headliners. And they've overachieved. Utah, a small market team. It seemed when Gordon Hayward left that was sort of the end for them. But Donovan Mitchell has said, wait, hold on a second. We're not just Gordon. We've got some boys down here. We've got Rudy. We've got Ingles. We've got people who can shoot. We've got people who can drive. We can defend, which is really going to be their calling card. But it's going to be tough to defend this Thunder team. With Russell Westbrook attacking the rim, he averaged a triple-double for the 2nd consecutive season. That hasn't been done since forever. Since, I don't even know, I can't even think of a good example, but it has not happened in a while. Lo siento, that was sort of a weird little exchange there. The Thunder and the Jazz, it's going to be an exciting series. The Thunder are going to progress in this because Donovan Mitchell, this is an elevated stage. He's used to playing these sort of regular season games in Utah. The pressure there is not as immense as it will be in a playoff series against the triumvirate, who can really do some damage in this round and beyond. Thunder are going to win this series in 5 games. Donovan Mitchell will play well, but he'll ultimately not be able to put up the same heroics as he did in the regular season. Gobert relies on Mitchell for a lot. He'll defend well, but if this Thunder team starts knocking down three-pointers, you're in trouble. So, the West, who will progress? The Rockets, the Warriors, the Blazers, and the Thunder. All the higher seed teams will advance as opposed to the East where there will be mayhem. NBA playoff preview. Don't ever take your eyes off the TV because this is going to be an incredible NBA playoffs. Finally, before I go, I want to talk briefly about San Francisco Giants. They've got off to a 6-7 start. They've played a tough schedule so far. Lots of games against the Dodgers. They had that interleague 2-game series against the Mariners, who figured to be a playoff team this year. Then they had to host the Dodgers again before going into a series against the Diamondbacks, who have been very hot this season. They have their first sort of easier series. It's going on right now. They've split the first 2 games against the San Diego Padres. This Giants team has looked a little promising so far. They've showed signs. They're not exactly scoring runs well, but they're hitting the ball well, which is nice. Not a lot of only 2 hits. They're getting a lot of 8-9 hit games. They just can't really get that clutch hit with runners in scoring position. Andrew McCutchen has looked very good. Evan Longoria has not been great so far, but he figures to pick it up. He's been a consistent player all his career. The fact that the Giants are 6-7 with this laughable pitching staff right now is absolutely incredible. Samardzija's gone, Bumgarner's gone, Cueto's a little bit uncomfortable right now. So those are the 3. I mean, the staff is like Chris Stratton, Ty Block, Derek Holland. They called up Beatty, one of their best prospects, because they just have nobody. This kid Suarez is pitching. I mean, it's an incredibly bad pitching staff, but Bumgarner, he'll be out for a while, but once he gets back, he'll be that ace. Samardzija has been throwing, so he figures to be back soon. Cueto, it's only a mild ankle injury, so he should be back soon. And once we get those 3, Ty Block has looked very good this season. He outdueled Kershaw in the first game of the series. He gave the Giants another chance to win when he only gave the Dodgers 1 run in another matchup against Kershaw. He just got beat yesterday, but he's been pretty good this year. Ty Block has looked like the real deal. Stratton pitched incredibly well yesterday, not 2 days ago, in the Giants' 7-0 win over San Diego. Beatty is an exciting talent. He did not have an amazing debut, but hey, he is a top prospect for a reason. He's got good stuff. So exciting for the Giants. The problems are the same as usual. Lack of run support. And unlike the usual, they just can't hit at all, runners have been in scoring position, and they've not been able to get the job done. Brandon Crawford has not been hitting the ball well this season, nor has Brandon Belt. Evan Longoria has not been great this year. Joe Panik is playing his best baseball, but he's cooled down a little bit. Kutch, for all his heroics and his 2 walk-offs, he hasn't exactly hit as well as people have wanted him to. Buster is just sort of getting out of he sort of had a little bit of slump to start the year, but he's picking it back up. Pence is just not a terrific hitter anymore, but he really needs to pick it up a little bit. So everyone's almost there, but not quite. And once this pitching staff gets back, this is going to be a very exciting team to watch, because if they can win with this sort of, somehow they're already have been hit hard by injuries, even though the season is like 13 games old. The injury bug has already plagued them. If they can stay healthy, they figure to be an exciting team and a team that can possibly do damage in a division who many people expected the Dodgers to win, but the Dodgers have not looked good this season so far. They're 4 games below 500. The Giants have taken a bunch of games off of them with this demolished pitching staff. The Diamondbacks have been beating them consistently, and the D-backs are really the team that is looking good right now, but that pitching is just not quite good enough. Once you get past Greinke, Corbin, Robbie Ray, a lot of Godley, he's been okay so far, but I don't see it, especially in that lively ballpark. Anything can happen. The Rockies have not been playing great so far, but we all know what they can do, and their pitching has been much improved this year. Bettis and Gray have been good. I figure for the Rockies to really challenge for this division title, not just be maybe challenging for a wild card spot. I see them really, really pushing for a playoff. The Padres are in their rebuilding process. They have not had a good start to the year. They've got some promising pieces, but they're 3 or 4 years away from really even competing for a winning record. So, quick Giants update. Don't take your eyes off them. Don't give up on them just because they haven't been incredible to start the year. There's some good things happening, and you want to be around to see it. One quick point that I forgot to add during the during my Champions League analysis was how much tactics played into this these comebacks, and it's because these managers are. I'm just going to say my point right now, and you can pretend like I said it with my Champions League analysis. But these teams are adopting this Conte 3-5-2 and playing very defensively. When they don't have the ball, you see 8 or 9 players behind the ball. What that does is that the other teams get the ball, and when they're chasing, they have the ball for long periods of time. And once the defending team does win the ball back, there's often not a lot to hit the ball forward to. So the teams that are chasing these ties are throwing people forward, and the teams that are trying to protect these leads are sort of just saying, okay, you're putting people forward, we'll just drop everyone behind the ball. And it's hard to defend for 90 minutes, especially these big teams that are not used to doing this, that are used to having the ball, having the possession, having the advantage. And when they're being asked to just defend for the whole game, not only is that different, but it's difficult, and it's a skill that they're not used to being able to do. This was especially relevant for the Barcelona and Real Madrid games. So, brief point, forgot to add it. Stick that in with my other analysis. So, this has been a very long edition of the Woodruff Report. I'm sorry for that, but there was so much to talk about. We touched on the Champions League, exciting second leg quarterfinal games. We did an NBA playoff preview in what looks to be a very exciting NBA playoffs, and we finished with a brief Giants update. The MLB season is still young, but there is still stuff that we can learn from it, and I brought up a few points about that. Thank you so much for listening, and please listen next week. We've got that 49ers draft preview coming up soon. An exciting time. It's the most wonderful time of the year, like I said at the beginning of the podcast in my melodious voice. Thank you so much for listening, and please listen again next week. I'm your host, David Woodruff. This is the Woodruff Report. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. See you next week.